decolonization is it's a political standpoint. It's a way that we organize our thoughts. And when we think of the history of the term, I think I mostly connect it to Frantz Fanon, the Algerian psychologist and psychoanalyst who went and fought as a freedom fighter to get Algeria's independence from France. But that is the basis of his liberatory framework. So it's a big word, and it's something that plays out in our daily lives in terms of our eagerness to accept the smooth functioning of the systems that we have to encounter, because they are white supremacist in their design. And to be an anti-racist and to attack things from a decolonization framework means that we have to be in direct opposition to not just the smooth functioning of the system, but the actors that assume the leadership roles in them. So it often creates a sense of being overwhelmed, because being European means that we are the colonizers, and our ancestors are the colonizers here in what we know as North America. So there is a large sense of trepidation, and as well as large amounts of guilt when we think about not being able to redress the harms of colonization here in the country that we call America. RACE is short for Radical Advocates for Cross-Cultural Education. And we don't want the word radical to scare people, because a lot of the things that we're proposing are grounded in solid theory and in actionable, readable results from other places. So RACE started in a place in 2015 here in Waterbury, where it was a really passion project between Dr. Garcia, myself, and Shante Campbell, all Waterbury residents, all educated through the Waterbury Public Schools, realizing that there was large amounts of systemic oppression that were readily and easily seen in the Waterbury Public Schools student outcome data. Now, RACE focuses on three general areas: the school to prison pipeline, meaning that we want to eliminate the use of arrests and suspensions to manage student behavior, which also means that we want to have educators trained in a way that they're culturally responsive, so that their academic practices sustain people's culture, not erase them. We work to change policies at both the state and local level around education equity and focusing an anti-racist lens, meaning that we're steadfast in our position to eliminate programs and policies that have kept oppressive structures and outcomes in place for decades here in Connecticut. And the third thing that we do is that we want to work with educators, both instructional and non-instructional staff, so that we can help them, one, take care of themselves as they engage students from an oppressive institution's perspective, so that they can get the care and treatment for their own bias and systemic racism that they're forced to engage in on a daily basis. And then we want to create spaces for them to access creativity in their imagination to recreate systems of education so that they are not oppressive, and that because education and our systems of education sit at the intersection of all other systems of oppression, it's our belief that if we're able to eliminate the oppressive structures in modern American educational systems, that we'll be more easily able to address other forms of systemic racism, meaning that we'll be able to address police brutality, issues concerning immigrant rights, generational poverty, and healthcare and health inequities that exist as a result of folks being undereducated from one generation to the next. We often take a very aggressive and assertive stance on our cooperation with districts and motivated individuals, and have no problem being agitators or taking the role of activists in situations where families' rights and or groups of neighborhoods are not given the same access as their white peers in school districts across Connecticut and throughout neighborhoods here in Waterbury. Race has become a place where families can seek shelter from oppressive actors, as well as places to receive extra knowledge so that they can become their own best advocates here in the systems that they have to engage in Waterbury. I think that's part of what our role is as an organization, is to highlight the inequities and how the systems approaches create a sense of inevitability, meaning that we'll always have an achievement gap or opportunity gap, or that student outcomes will always be different between Black and brown students and their white peers. And part of achieving change is changing that mindset, meaning that systems don't have to change the same, don't have to stay the same. And systems, if people's imaginations and their creativity are able to access the power that very few people hold now, is when we'll see dramatic change that leads to a reversing of the systemic undereducation of people here in America. And that's because the system was designed to do this. It's created a void or fissure for folks to fall into that they can never get out of unless they become reliant upon other systemic structures that require a top-down power dynamic to guide them through the system. We're advocating for the opposite, meaning that the power goes to the people to decide where, when, and how the money's spent and who's facilitating the educational opportunities, so that we can have a true tribal experiment that comes true here in our neighborhood school system here in Waterbury. So that would be an anti or decolonizing educational experience. And I think when we use big words like that, it scares people away at times. But if we said, give the power to the parents to decide who it is that they hire, what type of math and history is being taught, and in this respect, the education becomes responsive to what the families want, as opposed to them having to receive what is being served.